He's as much a part of the problem as any Zionist politician, Israeli politician. You know, when he welcomed the traitor Jonathan Pollard into the American embassy and feted him like a hero, after Pollard said that Israelis should take up arms against the United States, that was enough for me. Ambassador Huckabee should have resigned on the spot. He doesn't have the balls to resign. He has no honor. And then the whole Tucker Carlson interview where he essentially said, yeah, I pretty much represent the Israeli government. I think the Israelis should take all of the Middle East. Just take it.
Mike Johnson went to the settlements outside of Bethlehem and met with the settlers to give them a rah-rah speech. He didn't meet with the Christians that had been there since the first century.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the American public is waking up to this. So we have this campaign, SaveWestBankChristians.com, and we're really going to focus attention on the West Bank this Easter because they increase the abuses on Christians around the Tridium. Yeah. And we're going to really try to do our best to make sure everyone's paying attention to this. Do you think that this administration will be responsive? Trump has said many times, no more settlements in the West Bank. Yeah. Israel responds by saying, here's a new settlement right in the Christian area, and we're going to drop 11,000 homes.
Donald Trump will do literally nothing to help Christians in Palestine. But neither did Joe Biden or Barack Obama or George W. Bush or George H.W. Bush or Ronald Reagan or anybody else. Name one single soldier who died because I said NSA was spying on Americans. Name one, and I'll take a guilty plea. Name him. And then they backed off. And then later on, after the case was thrown out, they left the accusations against him on the NSA and the DOJ websites, but they took out the slide where they accused him of having the blood of American soldiers on his hands. They just make that shit up and throw it at you to scare you. They do it all the time.
They even did it with Maduro,
yeah,
who's a bad guy.
Yeah, sure.
Remember the Cartel de los Soles? That got removed from the indictment the minute he touched down over here
Never
on 30,
existed.
On 30th Street.
Mm-hmm. Never existed. Epstein got a sweetheart deal in 2006, right? And the U.S. attorney for the whatever it was, the Southern District, the Central District of Florida, whatever it was, I guess it was the Central District, has said, this is Acosta, who became labor secretary in Trump's first term, said that he was ordered to give this, and he asks me to take notes in the final, it's called a principals committee meeting. So the principals are the president, he chairs the meeting, the vice president, the secretary of state, the secretary of defense, the national security advisor, the deputy national security advisor and the director for the Middle East, and then the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the vice chairman, and the head of Central Command, General Tommy Franks at the time.
Big meeting.
Big meeting. So we're in the conference room. George is sitting here at the table just like this. I'm sitting directly behind him taking the notes. And it's all TVs. There's the vice president, the secretary of state, secretary of defense, Condoleezza Rice, this general, that general, the other general, all on these TVs, right? So the vice president, I don't know why the president wasn't at that meeting. He was supposed to chair it, and something came up and he was doing something else.
I think this was Dick Cheney's work.
So Cheney was chairing the meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I often wondered if Bush even realized that he was the president. Like this, does Bush realize that he's actually been elected the president, or does Bush think Cheney's the president?
No, he just gave everything to Cheney.
He just gave everything to Cheney, like literally everything.
Yeah.
Unprecedented in American history. So Cheney starts off by saying, General Franks, why don't you start the briefing with the order of battle? Do you know what the order of battle is? I hate order of battle briefings. They're so boring. They mean nothing to me. So they have this big map of Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and Kuwait. Got to the point in the early 1970s where there would be 5 or 6 people in one of these meetings, and all of them were FBI agents. And they're all reporting on each other.
They just didn't know.
No.
Yeah.
That's crazy. What a way to run a government.
Exactly. See, the mukhabarat or intelligence can be a slippery slope where you can become very paranoid, right?
Absolutely true.
So going back to Kuwait and speaking about mukhabarat and different countries, Saddam tried to hit Israel, right? He sent a few missiles.
Yeah, that was one of the most exciting. I mean, if you're an outsider watching this happen.
Up his ass.
God knows who he was going to stab with it. Probably me. Anyway, I've not told that story. It doesn't make me look very good. Take it easy. Thanks for your interest. Are hitmen real?
Yes.
At the National Security Council, there is a committee that meets every Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock to draw up something called
The kill list.
They sit around a table and they make a list of all the people that they want to kill that week. And then they take it back to the CIA, which has a
Dedicated unit.
I won't tell you the name, but it has a dedicated unit that takes receipt of the list. They say, okay, number 1. They drive to the airport, they get on the plane, they go out to that country,
They kill the person.
they come back, and then they go to number 2 on the list. That happens every single week. Now, we can have a conversation about whether that's right or whether it's wrong.
It's certainly immoral. It's illegal.
But it's been tasked by the president. At the same time, they will tell you,
There hasn't been another 9/11, has there?
maybe it's because we're out there killing people.
What kind of people would be on that list?
Oh, the most dangerous terrorists in the world.
He leaned in to kiss me, and I instinctively backed off. And he said, "Oh my God, I'm sorry. I thought you're gay." And I said, "Oh no, I am gay."
I'm not into hairy guys.
And he's like, "Oh, okay." I said, "I'm sorry. I think you're great, but I'm not feeling it."
You didn't kiss him.
No. So we remained friends. And in the end, he gave me the information.
Because the Israelis control our foreign policy. And we do as they tell us to do.
How do we extricate ourselves from their influence?
The very first thing we need to do is to force AIPAC to register as a foreign agent. It's a bad joke that AIPAC is just a bunch of concerned Americans who support Israel. Please. It's an insult to the intelligence of every American. AIPAC needs to register just like everybody else needs to register. And then we need to put America first. You know, I approached this whole America first thing in the MAGA movement from the political left. And I was a true believer. I really want us to put America first.
I campaigned this past cycle in Pennsylvania where I met with the Syrian Christians in the Lehigh Valley. I met with the Muslim community, and I really organized them to support the president because I said that he has given us his word. He is going to end this war. He said there's too many Palestinians dying. This has to stop.
Yeah.
And
He said all the right things.
He said all the right things.
And then did all the wrong things. You know, another thing too, I've said this many times, but every Israeli prime minister, going back to the Reagan administration, every prime minister on every visit to Washington has asked the president, please bomb Iran, please bomb Iran, please bomb Iran. And every president has said no until this one.
The one that has for a decade.
This sweetheart deal. Okay, so where do orders come? Who's the only person in the system there who can order a U.S. attorney to do something? That's the Attorney General. Well, the Attorney General was Alberto Gonzalez, who didn't brush his hair in the morning without permission from the president or the vice president, right? He was like legendary for his powerlessness and ill suiting for the position. So, was it Bush? Was it Cheney? Who was it that was close enough to Epstein that he would want to swoop in and save Epstein by giving him the sweetheart deal? Nobody's ever answered that question. And Acosta apparently, genuinely doesn't know the answer. His order came down from the Attorney General.
I think I believe him on that.
I do too. I believe him.
Because he said I was told he belonged to intelligence.
Intelligence.
That's the line.
That was the word. He belonged to intelligence.
Well, this gets into that super government kind of thing. Because it's like you say Bush and Cheney, which makes a lot of sense to me. But not, like my whole worldview is just like,
oh, yeah, it's
this.
ridiculous. You know, I used to just, and they say the 1st Mountain Division is located 20 kilometers south of here, and the horses are here, and the tanks are there, and this platoon is moving south. And I don't care where your little army men are. Just do your thing. I don't need to know the details. So I'm writing this boring stuff down. And then General Frank says, if all goes as planned, we can be in Tehran by August.
What?
And George is just sitting there like this, like stone. And he turns off his microphone and he turns to me and he says, did he say Baghdad or did he say Tehran? And I said, he said Tehran. And George says, are they out of their minds?
What the hell?
And then he turns the microphone back on. And the rest of the meeting, he just is sitting there like this. I think the Israelis are heavily involved in Iran at the moment. I'll tell you why, for a couple of reasons, more than a couple. Number one, in the so-called 12-day war that we saw last year, the Israelis were absolutely masterful in the way they went after the Iranian leadership. What they did was they focused on recruiting Afghan refugees. Iran was home to more than 2 million Afghan refugees. And as essentially illegal aliens, they could not avail themselves of medical care, the welfare system. They're starving, right? They only eat if they can beg for enough to buy food. And so the Israelis went to these people very discreetly and said, hey, we'll give you $200 a month if you tell us where the generals live. In which apartments do the generals live? Where do the nuclear scientists live? It was very exciting. So in the American government, there are several levels of immediacy in the cables. So a routine cable means, read it or don't read it. Nobody cares. Maybe it says, Faisal is coming on a visit in 3 weeks. Okay, thank you. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Priority means, okay, there's some diplomatic business here. You should read this sometime today. Then after priority is immediate. That means this is important. Read it now.
Yeah.
Then there's flash, which means emergency. And then there's the highest one is critic, which means they're coming over the embassy walls. God save us. Right?
Or at least people that the CIA deems to be the most dangerous terrorists.
The reason, though, I'm told, that Donald Trump decided to bomb Iran was that the Israelis said, for the first time, if you don't bomb Iran to take out these deep bunkers, we're going to use nuclear weapons. And they had never threatened that before. And so Trump said, bombing Iran might actually save us from the start of World War III if it keeps the Israelis from using nuclear weapons.
So according to your source, the Israelis told the President of the United States that if he did not use the United States military power to bomb the nuclear facilities in Iran.
I don't from the Middle East.
But I do from CIA headquarters.
As you might imagine, there have been quite a few people who hide inside the CIA headquarters building. The stress is overwhelming. The hours are exceedingly long, and you'd probably be shocked by the number of people who just drop dead at their desks. Happened to a close friend of mine, Jack Robertson. Jack,
And ridiculing the idea of bombing Iran.
Right. Oh my gosh. The terrible things he said about Barack Obama. That he's weak and he doesn't know how to negotiate. And the only reason we're talking about bombing Iran is because he can't negotiate. And then, like somebody said to me the other day, there's always a tweet. Yeah, that's exactly right. And we're not talking about the period of the Shah of Iran. We're talking about post-Shah Iran.
Yeah.
This is something that I've always felt very strongly about. We've missed issue after issue after issue on which we could have cooperated with the Iranians. We could have cooperated with the Iranians on counterterrorism, on counter proliferation, even counter narcotics. I've told a story, Chris, many times. When I was the senior investigator in the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, I told the chairman, Senator John Kerry, that I wanted to go to Afghanistan to do a study on the cultivation of heroin poppy. And so I flew out to Bagram Air Base. They were waiting for me. They weren't happy about it, but I said that I needed to fly to Kandahar and then to Helmand province, the capital of Lashkar Gah, in order to do this study. I wanted to go into the poppy fields. I wanted to interview farmers. They hated the idea. It's the only time in my career that I ever pulled rank on someone.